Welcome to Hancock's VMware Half Hour. Okay, so welcome back to another episode of Hancock's VMware Half Hour. And in this evening's video, we're going to have a little look at how to repair a broken VMware vCenter Server 7. Now, all these tricks and procedures and functions that I'm going to show you in this particular video are applicable to vCenter Server 8. Now, if you followed my video on how to reset the vCenter Server 8 root password, there was one thing I left out and I'm going to show you. So we've already reset the vCenter Server 7 root password on our VMware vCenter Server 7, and it's restarted. So now we're going to log back in to the server, and what we should have done really is reset the password and also reset the fact that the account is actually locked. So we know the password's right, but now we need to reset the lock. And in this video I'm going to show you a number of procedures and tips because currently this VMware vCenter server is responding with a HTTP server error 500. I know what the cause of that is. The cause of that is one of the certificates has expired. It's a long time since we've had this lab on. This is the VMware vCenter server. This is the VMware vSphere 7 lab. We've got the big guns powered on tonight because we want to explore VCF, VMware Cloud Foundation, in another video. And the ProLiant microservers that I have, the VMware vSphere 8 lab, just certainly don't have enough grunt to be able basically to host that lab. So we've powered back on the VMware vSphere 7 lab and the vCenter Server 7 is a little bit poor. So the first thing that we need to do is we're going to shut down and restart this particular server. So I'm going to select power, I'm going to say reset, restart, guest, and I'm going to select yes. So once the VMware vCenter server or VCSA appliance has restarted, at the photon screen, press the letter E, and that will allow you to edit the grub parameters in exactly the same way as the previous video that shows you how to reset the root password. So I'm going to type the letters RW, init, INIT, equals /bin /bash. I'm going to press the function key 10, and that will boot the server, and that will drop us out into a bash shell. Okay, great. Now normally we would actually basically do a password root, and maybe I will just reset the password again here on this server. So I'm going to do password root. I'm going to specify a new password. Okay, so I've updated the root password again, but what I really need to do is I need to type the following to reset the password lock. So pam tally2 or pam underscore tally2 -- user equals root -- reset. Okay, so it actually basically tells us there that there have been 6 failures with me trying to log in with a different password. So there are a number of problems really that we've encountered when we come back to this lab. One, I've forgotten the password. Obviously you can see I've tried 6 times and still can't remember what I set it to, so I've had to reset the password. The root account is locked, so I've had to unlock the account. vCenter server is not running anyway because it has a HTTP internal server error 500, which I know is because of the there is a possibly, I think, a certificate has expired. But it gets a little bit more complicated than that in this lab, because in the last couple of videos that we did on this lab, we were exploring and I was showing you how to create vCenter server HA. So we actually have HA enabled in this lab. So we've got passive and active and a witness VMware vCenter server 7, and the certificate manager doesn't actually work or run in HA mode. So that means you've actually got to destroy the HA link before you can actually basically run the certificate manager to reset the certificate, and then hopefully we're in with a chance that VMware vCenter server will start. Now, the reason I'm doing all this is because in this particular lab, to make it even more complicated, we have distributed switches and we have vSAN, and I'd rather repair VMware vCenter server if it's just a certificate issue, rather than having to go to the trouble of do a restore and restore the backup from vCenter server that I have and restore the VDS export that we've completed. So, and you actually get the benefit to watch me scratch my head and try and fix VMware vCenter server. So, without further ado, I'm actually going to shut down and restart this server, and then we'll come back and try to log in. Okay, so I've restarted the server, and now I can log in correctly. And if I type shell, then I can actually basically get our bash prompt. Now, at this time, it's completely normal actually to say failed to connect to service when it's actually basically starting up all the services. So I'm not too concerned with that at the moment, but I will wait for the majority of the services to start before I continue my investigation. But one thing I am going to do, I'm just going to use the command df-h just to have a quick look to see whether or not any of the storage volumes are full. I can't see any there off the top of my head. Usage there 18%, usage 22%, but I can't actually see at present any volumes that look like that they need attention. So that isn't the reason for our service failure. I'm just going to do vpxd-v just to actually basically check the build. The build of VMware vCenter server is I think 7.3. Yeah, it's not a really old one, but certainly there is a much later version. I think there's 0200, and this is 101600. So there is definitely a later version available. My apologies, as I said, we've got the big lab on. It does make an awful lot more noise than usual. Can have a little look at the uptime, and I'm going to have a little look at the service control --status --all. It would help if I could type service control status all. Have a little look at what's okay. So we've got a lot of services stopped there at the moment, as it's actually basically starting up. So there's not really much more I can do at the moment. I'd rather actually do this via SSH, because I want to copy and paste a command, but I can actually see there that the VMware VCHCA service is running, which is the HA service. So let me just enable SSH on this. so I can basically just copy and paste this to look at certificates to see if they're expired. Okay, so we have an SSH connection into our vCenter appliance, and I'm just going to basically run this big long sort of kind of script that will show us if the certificates have failed, but it can't connect to the VM AFD service, and I don't think that service is running, and I suspect that's because HA is all crapped out. So I'm going to have a little look at the services using the service control command, and let's have a little look. Okay, so I can see that there's a VMware-VCHA service running there. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to just assume that everything basically is busted, and I'm going to reset this server to the active node and see whether or not that's actually going to do anything. Because if we can force this back to active mode, even in our HA, then we can sort of kind of get vCenter server, at least services working, and I can check the certificates, and if I can check the certificates, then I can see which one has failed, and then we can destroy the HA. Okay, so it's telling me that the vCenter HA witness node with IP address is not reachable. Start witness node and retry. That's rather interesting. It's not responding. Okay, we've got a little bit of networking back. Had to do some fiddling. I'm not quite sure why the witness went online, but I just fiddled around with the networking across the virtual machines just to these appliances are also running across the VDS network, but the VDS network should be working okay even with vCenter server down. So I've just forced these back to bog standard VM network at the moment so that we can get communication between the on this particular host. So hopefully we can do this VCA reset again now, and I confirm and proceed yes, and hopefully now that it can reach out the witness, so it can do all the magic that it needs to do and force this back as the active node, and hopefully we're not going to get any error messages this time. I'll just put this on. Oh, okay, so it's obviously found the witness. It's stopping the VMware vCHA service, and it's obviously then going to do some magic and force this particular machine back to the active node. What it's going to do about this faulty certificate that currently exists, and that faulty certificate will exist on all nodes. So it will be on the active, it will be on the passive, and it will also be on the witness, because effectively they're all sort of kind of clones. Successfully reset current node to be the active node, starting... okay, so it's starting that service again. I wonder whether or not I can run my magic script again. Okay, it still can't connect to the VMFFD service, but it's possible, of course, that it's starting up. Okay, so there's a slightly different... I just noticed that the VMware Postgres database is now running. So I think all these services are coming up in HA mode. But they are going to fail because, as I say, you know, we will get this certificate issue most definitely. I don't see how. Here we go. Okay. So this is what I wanted to see. So it's actually has actually started the service that I wanted it to start. So if we have a little look through here, we can see that the machine cert not after June 12th, 04/11/2024. So we're after June the 12th. So that's why we've got a problem with all this nonsense. We can now run the certificate manager. And this is the problem, that I think that when we run the certificate manager, it actually basically turns around and tells me that certificate manager tool does not support vCenter HA systems. So, we really are in a mess with all this. To be honest with you, really, we've got vCenter HA, certificates have expired, active and passive nodes are all crapped out. We've got a witness node, so at least we've got HA sort of kind of running, limping along. We've got some sort of VMware vCenter service. So now, there's nothing really for me to do now other than destroy the existing cluster. So I'm going to do a vCHA-destroy-f. That is actually going to allow me to go back afterwards and delete a load of machines that I don't need anymore. So confirm this. Hopefully, it's going to destroy it nicely. And it will then make the changes to the current active node so that we can boot this in non-HA mode. Then we can run the certificate manager. Then we can reset the certificate, and hopefully we're not going to cause any more problems. Although I'm wondering whether or not that we're going to get a problem with vPostgres. I have seen issues before with replication problems with the Postgres database that we might have to. The IP already exists in the network. Well, of course, because it's this 192.168.182.136, 192.168.111. Okay, I'm going to go for a reboot, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so we're back after a reboot. I just had to wait a couple of minutes for it to bring up the services that I needed to check, and I just wanted to confirm that the machine cert is the certificate that we've got a problem with. So let's run the certificate manager. Okay, now we can run certificate manager because we destroyed the VCHA cluster. So I'm just going to select 3. Tell you what, I'm going to reset all the certificates. Why not? Now this is interesting. This is where it's now actually going to ask me for the administrator at vSphere local password. And tell you what, I don't think we know what that is either. Okay, so another thing we've got to do is to reset the administrator at vSphere local password. I've actually done a video on this, so hopefully we can reset an account. Administrator at vSphere.local. Okay, so we've got a new password. So I'm just going to basically do a notepad to capture this password a minute. We might need it again. That was handy, wasn't it? That wasn't what I typed in. Let's just try that again. Excellent. Okay, so now we can go back to our certificate manager, reset all certificates. Yes. Yeah. Now we know the password, so we can do this. Okay, so GB, default value, CA, organization, Cyrus Computer Consultants Limited, default value, Cyrus HQ, state, East Riding, Yorkshire, locality, IP address 192.168.182.136, email, yeah, I'm not going to bother with email, host name, vCenter 7.cyrus-consultants.co.uk, just checking that all this is right, there's no typos, proper name, vCenter 7.cyrus-consultants.co.uk, continue operation, go, regenerating, yes. So hopefully this is going to complete with 0 errors. We're going to get 100% complete and it's going to start all our services. But I'm skeptical about this because I've seen problems before in the wild where replication, vCenter HA, where we've basically had to do a very similar procedure because again it's broken, and resurrect a host as the active node, does its piece. But okay, normally, we would have to start doing stuff with the Postgres database, which I was expecting to do this evening. So I might get away lightly here, might get away within 30 minutes. So let's just have a little look at the certificates again. 2026, 2032, 2034, 26, 26, 26, 26, 2032, 2024. Okay, so the certificates look okay. So we've broken HA, that's no longer involved anymore, so I can delete that and get rid of that. Was expecting to do the Postgres stuff. Can't really do the Postgres stuff if the database is okay. Let's just do one final check on our services. Okay, so we've still got a lot stopped. So let's just do a start all. So finally, VMware vCenter server started up, and as you can see that we're currently logged in, and we've got our passive and our witness. So I don't need these anymore because they are currently defunct. So I'm going to power them off. I'm going to delete them. Witness and passive, just going to check I've got the right ones. So the reason, just in summary, that we went through all this trouble to repair our VMware vCenter server was because that it runs VDS, it runs vSAN, so it's a little bit more complex than just your standard vSwitch scenario. So in recap, let's just go back to where we were. That initially I found that we were finding that we had a HTTP 500 internal server error, which is generally a good indication that okay, I'm just looking to see that these are off, and I'm going to delete these from disk now because they're no longer required. It's generally a good indication that a certificate ignore all that, and that's something else that needs to be fixed. So it's generally an indication if you've got a internal server error. Okay, that looks, I think that's gone. Let's just do a refresh. Okay, good. So if you've got, I've actually created a backup of it now as well, just in case. So if you've got an internal server error 500, it's a good indication that you have a certificate problem. And you can run the certificate manager to reset all the certificates. In this particular case, we were running vCenter Server HA, which I've done an article about and a video about before, where you basically go up here and you go vCenter HA and you click setup and it does all the heavy lifting for you. Big problem with vCenter HA is you can't use Certificate Manager to reset your certificates. So we had to destroy the vCenter HA, but we could only destroy the vCenter HA by forcing one of the nodes to become the active node, because the passive node or the active node had got confused. So we took one of the nodes, probably the passive, it was the passive node, and we actually basically reset that so that it would become the active node. However, of course, that wasn't really our only problem, because it was all broke because the certificate. So once we'd actually basically got vCenter HA operating as vCenter HA again, or that wasn't actually basically powering up or starting all the services because of the busted certificate, we destroyed vCenter Server HA so we could restart, run the certificate manager, reset the certificates, restart VMware vCenter server, and here is where we are. A little bit long, but I'm hoping, as I said, I will put a lot of the notes that I've used in the description. I'm hoping that something in this video you will find interesting, or there'll be a golden nugget in here somewhere that allows you to repair your VMware vCenter Server 7 or 8, because the procedures and the techniques are very similar. Okay, so thanks very much for watching me this evening. It's been a long day, I'm tired. I've been out with the bees shifting boxes again, but they are now fed and treated. Entrant blocks are in, so there's not really a great deal for me to do, but I still got one apiary left, and then I need to start extracting all that gorgeous honey. So anyway, thank you very much for watching, and good night.